Mary Kay on People Management by Mary Kay Ash. Timeless Principles from one of America's greatest entrepreneurs. Foreword. I am thrilled to reintroduce Mary Kay on People Management and the groundbreaking ideas it introduced on how to be an effective leader. This book is a representation of the life's work of an extraordinary woman I had the fortune to call Grandmother Mary Kay. I am amazed at how the principles she shared in this book are still so relevant today. I can tell you that she lived her life by these principles and philosophies and raised her family by them. Now that I'm older, I can clearly see how she was teaching them to me throughout my childhood. She knew they would make a difference in my life. In 1963, when she began her dream company, she adopted the values that shaped her business. Over the course of the past 55 years, they've changed millions of lives for the better, and they're still the guiding beacons we use to manage the business today. They always will be. My grandmother started it, my father nourished it, and I will perpetuate it. It's the Mary Kay way. Grandmother Mary Kay had already received the Hall of Fame award in the direct selling industry by the time I was born. And at the age of 1, I was too young to understand what it meant for her to be selected a Horatio Alger Distinguished American Citizen. At age 2, I was still too young to remember when she was profiled on 60 Minutes, the interview where Morley Safer asked, "Don't you think, in a sense, you're using God?" To which Mary Kay replied, "I hope not. I sincerely hope not. I hope he's using me instead." But I do recall how important she always made me feel. As the years passed, I began to understand how much importance Mary Kay placed on the art of listening, on treating people as she would want to be treated, on doing well by doing good. She practiced all these things on her family as well as everyone she did business with. I was 7 years old in 1984 when Mary Kay on People Management was first published and became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Mary Kay autographed a copy for me. I still have it and treasure it because the words in the book ring so true with what I saw in her life. She told me to use the principles in this book someday when I drove the vision and strategy for Mary Kay. 35 years later, I'm still heeding her advice. This book is something all of us in leadership at Mary Kay Inc. refer to constantly, not only for how to do things the Mary Kay way, but also, as she shares in the introduction, so that we continue to exercise a sensitivity for the needs of others. I always knew who my grandmother was and what she did, but it wasn't until I joined Mary Kay Inc. in 2000 that I began to fully appreciate how much she meant to so many others. At our headquarters, I would see candid photos of my grandmother, like precious family, framed prominently on people's desks in their offices and cubicles. As I attended company events in the independent sales force, they would relate their most treasured stories and memories about Mary Kay. At the time of her death in 2001, I witnessed firsthand the great outpouring of love for my grandmother. The heartfelt thoughts, letters, and interviews deepened my sense of how much she contributed. Many years ago, we hosted for the first time a global business conference in Dallas for all the leaders of our Mary Kay subsidiaries around the world. I'll never forget one of our executives holding up a copy of this book and asking the group if everyone had read it. To those who raised their hands, yes, he said, "Great, read it again." To the ones who hadn't read it yet, he said, "Get a copy before you leave. Read it." Then he went on to say, "If you find you can't or don't agree with the principles in this book, just go ahead and find the door." As I began traveling to our world markets to places like China, Mexico, and Russia, I was surprised to find how well people understood the Mary Kay principles. It didn't matter where I was. There were people practicing the Mary Kay way, making others feel important and treating others the way they would want to be treated. I would come home and marvel to my dad, Richard Rogers, who helped my grandmother start the company, that the Mary Kay culture is an amazing international language. It works everywhere. In 2003, 2 years after my grandmother's death, I was honored to accept an award accorded her as a result of an academic study by Baylor University to determine the greatest entrepreneurs in American history. Henry Ford's great-grandson accepted his award. The late John H. Johnson was there to accept his as greatest minority entrepreneur. And Mary Kay Ash was named greatest female entrepreneur in American history. I said then that the greatest thing my grandmother did for the world was to tap into the minds and hearts of its women. In 2004, my dad was interviewed by the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania after Mary Kay had been named one of the 25 greatest business leaders of our time in a Wharton PBS study. The book, Lasting Leadership, was one of the few times since her death that my father has spoken publicly about my grandmother, whom he worked with from the age of 20 to build her company. In a book filled with 23 stories of male leaders, including Gates, Buffett, Walton, Greenspan, and Welch, my dad talked about one of only two women in the book. He explained that at Mary Kay, relationship building is ingrained as a business model. Nothing illustrates the power of her legacy to build relationships better than the company's continued success and the success of millions of independent beauty consultants around the world. If there's one thing that those of us who have read this book agree upon wholeheartedly, it is that these words of Mary Kay Ash are timeless. They say grandmother's principles resonate magnificently in building a business, in building leadership skills, in building a life. I am committed to teaching these principles to future generations of leaders at Mary Kay and beyond. As much as at any time in our history, the Mary Kay Way today governs and fuels our global enterprise as it works to better the lives of untold millions of families around the world, and it will continue to do so. Ryan Rogers. Preface. When Mary Kay Ash launched her dream company in 1963, few could imagine that it would become an iconic global brand operating in nearly 40 markets and fuel the entrepreneurial ambitions of women worldwide. Her success stems from closely held personal and business values meticulously outlined in Mary Kay on People Management, which she first published in 1984 as a guide to using a woman's touch to develop leaders. The book proved a rarity for its time in that it recognized the transformative impact women could have in creating vibrant and productive workplaces. Even today, 35 years after its first publication, Mary Kay and her book on talent development continue to resonate with female and male leaders alike. The legend of Mary Kay Ash and her journey to become a business icon is a magnet for generations of individuals who seek to live without limits, practice the power of positive thinking, and reach their highest potential, all while maintaining utmost integrity. Millions of women around the globe establish and accomplish their goals as enterprising Mary Kay independent beauty consultants. This rewarding entrepreneurial opportunity enables them to pursue their very own personal and professional dreams while enjoying the freedom and flexibility of operating a self-owned business. The success of Mary Kay Inc. remains a sustaining example of the power of the principles Mary Kay shared. Our newest edition of Mary Kay on People Management leaves intact most of the author's original text, with a few references removed and some phrases updated for clarity, but the pioneering wisdom of Mary Kay Ash still reverberates through each page of this best-selling and timeless book on management and leadership. Those who have the pleasure of reading Mary Kay on People Management for the first time or the fifth time will find truth in the profound simplicity of the principles shared. Leading by these standards will undoubtedly propel individuals and organizations to higher ground and greater success. Introduction. My story begins with what others may regard as a conclusion. In 1963, before starting my own company, I retired after 25 years in direct sales. I loved my work, and as national training director of a large corporation, I had achieved many of my goals, but as I reflected upon my career, I was still disheartened. The boredom of retirement caused a deepening sense of discontent. I had achieved success, but I felt that my hard work and abilities had never been justly rewarded. I knew I had been denied opportunities to fulfill my potential simply because I was a woman, and I was certain these feelings were not mere indulgences of self-pity, because I had personally known so many other women who suffered similar injustices. I also knew that repressed anger was unhealthy. For years, I had prided myself on being a positive person, and here I was, full of negative thoughts. To ward off those feelings, I decided to make a list of all the good things that had happened to me during the previous 25 years. Forcing myself to think positively did wonders for my spirit. I was able to overcome the discontent inside me, and my old enthusiasm slowly returned. Suddenly it occurred to me that these notes might serve as the basis for a book aimed at helping others. So I went deeper and listed all the problems I felt had hindered my career. I read through those lists again and again, convinced I was onto something. As a mother strives to protect her children, I wanted to help other women so they wouldn't have to suffer what I had endured. I realized that those lists were evolving into a how-to book about the right way to lead and motivate people. But who was I to write a book on leadership? I had no formal credentials in that area or as an author. No matter how effective my ideas were, who would pay attention to them? Nevertheless, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, kept racing through my mind. If I had been in charge of my old company, that's the rule I would have used with all people, men and women alike. It seemed to me that following the golden rule was such an obvious way to motivate and lead. If such a company did exist, I reasoned, then it would surely be a dream company. Instantly, a bold but simple question emerged. Instead of just talking or writing about it, why don't you actually do it? This was when I decided to fulfill the dream. Once I made that decision, I needed something to sell. I wanted a top quality product, one that could benefit other women, and one that women would be comfortable selling. I also wanted to offer women an open-ended opportunity to do anything they were smart enough or motivated enough to do. After spending days and nights trying to think of such a product, it finally dawned on me one evening while I was getting ready for bed. My skincare products. I had been introduced to them 10 years earlier by a local cosmetologist I had called on during my direct selling days. Using formulas created by her dad, she developed creams and lotions for customers of her small home-operated beauty shop. In addition to myself, many of my relatives and friends had been using these wonderful products for several years, so when the cosmetologist died, I bought the original formulas from her family. From my own use and the results I had personally received, I knew that these skincare products were tremendous. Some with modifications and high quality packaging, I was sure they would be big sellers. My main objective was to establish a company that would give unlimited opportunity to women. It was a period when women were often paid 50 cents on the dollar that men received for the same work. It disturbed me that men were paid more because they had families to support. It also disturbed me that wherever a male manager put down one of my new ideas or suggestions with, Mary Kay, you're thinking just like a woman. Throughout this book, I discuss the specific ways in which women do think differently from men. Such differences are in no way inferior to or incompatible with the way a man thinks. And so one of my objectives in founding Mary Kay was to create a business atmosphere in which thinking like a woman would not be a liability. In my company, those special sensitivities and talents, often labeled women's intuition, would be nurtured, not stifled. Unlike many people who start a new business, money was not my prime motivation. Not that I was so well off that it wasn't a consideration. In fact, I had put my life savings on the line. The business had to succeed or I would never have another opportunity to start my own business. On Friday, September 13, 1963, I opened the doors to Mary Kay Cosmetics in a 500 square foot storefront in Dallas. My 20-year-old son Richard joined me, and 9 enthusiastic women became the first Mary Kay independent beauty consultants. All of us worked side by side. There were no job descriptions. We all did whatever needed to be done. I sold, taught other women, conducted sales meetings, and emptied waste baskets. Richard did the bookkeeping and filled orders. Over the years, we grew steadily, adhering to our original decision to operate the business according to the golden rule and to offer unlimited opportunities to women. Today, as the founder and chairman of Mary Kay, I'm finally writing the book on leadership that was begun in 1963. What was theory is now fact. We now have 20 years of successful experience. Most books on leadership have been written by men and for men. Although I believe women can learn a great deal from such books, I also believe it isn't possible for us to clone ourselves from our male counterparts because we are different. Women can no more duplicate the male style of management than American businessmen can exactly reproduce the Japanese style. This is not to suggest that Americans and Japanese cannot learn from one another. They can and do. Similarly, women can gain considerable leadership know-how from men. By the same token, men can also learn much from women. People come first at Mary Kay. Independent sales force members, employees, consumers, and our suppliers. We pride ourselves as a company known for the people it keeps. Our belief in caring for people, however, does not conflict with our need as a corporation to generate a profit. Yes, we keep our eye on the bottom line, but it's not an overriding obsession. To me, P&L doesn't only mean profit and loss, it also means people and love. Many view us as an enigma, but the Mary Kay success story is no mystery to me. This remarkable company and independent sales force members have succeeded not through dog-eat-dog competition so commonplace in big business, but through sensitivity for the needs of others. We could never have grown to where we are today without the enthusiasm of thousands of women. Our methods are applicable in any organization, and the purpose of this book is to share them with you now. Mary Kay Ash, 1984.